Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Clouds podcast. I'm your host, Caroline, and on this podcast, we talk about all things regarding athletics, how to be stronger mentally and physically, and I love to share my experiences with and stories with you all, and I also like to bring on other guests and get a different perspective from different kinds of athletes. And with that being said, I have the pleasure of talking with Kylie Ohlmiller today. And Kylie has an extensive history in the lacrosse world, and she's even been crowned the face of women's lacrosse. She played at Stony Brook before entering the pro leagues, and she's now about to start her third season with the Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse Club. And today we're going to be talking about topics including overcoming injury, both the mental and the physical side, and then we'll have a short little Q&A at the end with some questions that you guys submitted on my Instagram. So, Kylie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, of course. So for those of the listeners that don't know that much about you, um, which you kind of have to be living under a rock, but whatever. Can you give a little history, a little background about your lacrosse career, and then just a little maybe some fun facts and stuff about your life outside of lacrosse, just so we can get
Sure.
to know you a little bit.
So my name is Kylie. I grew up on Long Island, born and raised, and I ended up going to college there as well. I have one younger sister. She is 2 years younger than me, and we did everything together growing up, including going to college and playing lacrosse together at Stony Brook. So that's a big part of my story, some one that I definitely will never forget for sure. That was really special for my family. Yeah, so I graduated in 2018 from Stony Brook, so about 5 years ago now, which is pretty crazy to say. Every year I say that though, it just gets a year farther and farther away. And yeah, I started playing professionally right out of college, which was when, the women's pro leagues first started kind of coming up. I'm now in Athletes Unlimited. I'll be playing this season in season three, which I'm excited about because I missed season two with an injury, which I'm sure we'll get back to. And I've been a member of the Team USA training team since 2017. This past year in 2022 was my first time making the World Cup team, and we won a world championship in 2022. So that's my lacrosse journey so far. Outside of that, a lot of my life still kind of revolves around lacrosse. I run a company called KO17 Lacrosse. We do clinics, development, mindset work, a lot of different things around being the holistic athlete across the world. We have a mobile app, which has been really fun. We have a community of people from literally all over the world. And yeah, I'm a podcast host. It's called Dream On. I do a lot of media stuff. I have been in the broadcasting world for the last three college seasons, which I'm really excited about, something I've been enjoying a ton. And yeah, I do a lot of like side projects. Someone asked me that the other day. They were like, "What do you do on the side?" And I was like, "You have some time? Because I got a list for you." But
You're just an
yeah,
entrepreneur at heart.
keeps
You
me
really
busy.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
me
sure.
busy.
She does it all, basically. In summation, she does it all. Um, no, that's really awesome that like you even got to play with your sister too. I find that really interesting. And I wonder how that like competitiveness plays in with you guys. How many years did you play with your sister at Stony Brook?
Yeah, so we played like everything together growing up. We started lacrosse the same year back when I was in fifth grade or third grade and she was in first. And we played volleyball, basketball, and lacrosse together in high school. We had the rules where we were able to play up. So when we were in seventh, eighth grade, we were both playing on varsity sports. So we had a couple years in high school together on each of those teams, and then in college. We played together for 2 years. So my junior and senior year, she was a freshman and sophomore. And then I actually was a graduate assistant at Stony Brook for 2 years after that. So I got to coach her last 2 years. But yeah, we have some competitiveness in a healthy way, I would say. She's a righty attacker. I'm a lefty attacker. So we're lucky that we don't play the exact same position. We actually do a really good job at leveling each other up and evening each other out. And, we're really, really good at being able to find each other on the field, which makes it so much fun to play with her.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys seem to complement each other nicely and it works out.
Thanks.
Um, no, that's super cool though. And obviously you you've been through a lot as far as like, playing in college, and now you're on your, I believe, fifth year playing in the pros, which is insane. You won a World Cup. You've really done so much, and as anyone can probably imagine, playing for so many years does come with setbacks. And you mentioned that last year you missed the USA uh, games because of that injury, or the AU season because of that injury. So, what was that process like for you? Kind of just like starting with the injury, and can you kind of
Yeah.
just walk us through what that experience was like for you?
Sure. So, starting from the beginning, what it takes to make a world championship team for a national team or for Team USA, it's like usually, so every world championship is every 4 years. So those 3 years in between a world championship year there's a bunch of different training camps every couple of months. You get invited to try out. Coaches like you, coaches pick you from a pool of players. X, Y, and Z. So for 3 years, it's a lot of like, I hope I get to this training camp. Got to stay healthy for 3 years. Maybe I miss one for an injury here, but hopefully they'll take me back on the next one. So it's a lot of ups and downs in those 3 years. And then, finally, last year we played in July of 2022, and the team was announced to us, the final team that was going to go to the World Championship in February. So just a couple months before that. So we were just kind of waiting until that, training until that. And, it takes, I say this because it takes a lot. You put a lot of effort, you put a lot of sacrifice, you put a lot of different things into it over a couple of years, and making sure that you're training well and keeping yourself healthy. So then, yeah, we get to Towson, which it was the US's turn to host. Countries rotate in terms of the World Championships, and where the World Championship is hosted each time around, and it was the US's turn. So we were at Towson in Maryland. And we get there, and it's like a 2 week long, we're in dorms at Towson. It was so much fun. At this point, we're really getting to know each other, really, have been for the last 5 years or so, because we actually trained through the COVID pandemic as well. So we actually got bumped back a year. Um, so yeah, it was a lot of like sacrifice, a lot of time, and you get there and it's so surreal. We played 7 games in 10 days against a bunch of the different countries. We played Canada twice. We played Australia twice. We played England. Who else did we play? Japan, Hong Kong. It was really just like such an amazing experience. Um, the ninth of the no, sorry, the sixth of the 7 games is when I went down with a torn ACL, MCL, both meniscuses. We were up by like 15 goals. It's the fourth quarter. I had the ball on my stick, and I just went for just a little inside roll around the crease, something I do maybe like 700 times a day. Like that's how often I would do it. It's one of my go-to moves, and I just got a bunch of contact at the same time, foot planted in the ground wrong, and immediately went down. Like a lot of people have always told me, you kind of know for that injury, you kind of know right away. You don't know what it feels like until you do it, but when you do it, you're like, okay, that was it. So yeah, that's what people used to tell me, and I knew right in that moment. And at that point, yeah, it was definitely upsetting. It took the night to kind of, settle down from my emotions, but when I woke up the next day, I was surrounded by teammates. They had decorated my crutches. They, had within 24 hours created an entire scrapbook from each of the players, had written me a handwritten note, bunch of pictures, bunch of stickers, bunch of fun things. Within 24 hours, they had gotten that to me with one day in between our semifinal game and our championship game. That's what they were doing. So it was just like a really special thing to be around. Whereas I know I could have been in a different headspace if I were to be in a different environment. So I was just grateful for the team atmosphere in that. And then yeah, we headed into the championship game. A day after that, we beat Canada by a couple of goals, and we won a gold medal.
What was it like sitting on the sidelines that like next day? It's like a
Yeah. It's
crazy
again like a
transition.
lot of yeah, a lot of different emotions run through. Lacrosse games are long too, right? It's not just like a one quick moment where you're like,
Like
okay, just
10
just
times longer when you're sitting
yeah,
there too.
just smile and wave, everything's fine. But no, it's like a 5 hour ordeal where It's a world championship game. You're playing for a gold medal. It's a big thing. And I think for me, there were definitely moments where I was kind of caught emotional. Like when we got off the bus, we were walking into the locker room. All of our parents and fans had lined up along the side and were giving us high fives of encouragement going through. That was a moment for me, kind of broke down a little bit there. But in the locker room, in the huddles, on the sideline, when the game was going, I was good. I was, happy to be there. I was happy to be surrounded by the people that I was surrounded by for the last 5 years who, you know, I always like to think, right? Every single person on that field and every single person who also didn't make that team have gone through some sort of injury, some sort of setback, some sort of story of their own. And they're still here. They're still fighting. They're still, putting on a brave face and like getting out here and doing it for the team. So just because I got hurt yesterday, it doesn't mean I can't do the same.
Yeah, exactly. No, it sounds like you really had a great support system there, and I think that makes a huge difference, especially in those initial like days and weeks of that injury, just
Mhm.
having, the comfort of the people that have been supporting you and that you've been playing with from that.
Yeah, and
Was this
these are world-class players too, right? Who are
Yeah,
focused on
exactly.
accomplishing
Exactly.
a massive goal, and their focus was on making sure I was okay, which,
Exactly.
says a lot about the people that were in that locker room.
Yeah. It's more than the game,
Mhm.
for sure. Was this the first time you had like a season-ending injury like this? That
Um,
needed surgery?
Back in high school, I had an injury in a winter league game that actually took me out for my entire freshman year season. But in terms of like it happening mid game, mid season, and then kind of ending the season for me, yeah, this was my first like big time ACL surgery. I had a meniscus surgery 5 years ago after my senior year at Stony Brook. I played on a meniscus tear my entire senior year in my left knee. And then also played in my first professional season that summer. The day after my last professional game, I got my surgery. So I've definitely played through injury. But in terms of like one where I physically couldn't walk off the field, that was my first one. I, have broken my nose 6 times. I've torn ligaments in my elbow. I've, had broken bones. I've had lots of different things going on. I've probably sprained both ankles maybe like 6 times each. I can't even keep count anymore, but they're all things that I've been able to luckily like push through if I needed to. This was the first time I had to be carried off the field.
Okay. So this was the first time the doctor was like, "You need to rest. You
Yeah.
can't be walking." So you basically went from like playing 2 games in the World Cup a day to basically probably being bedridden or walking on
Yeah.
crutches. So
Yeah.
what, as far as like your life kind of after that injury, what did it look like as far as like um training? Like were you still watching games or did you mainly just kind of say, okay, I'm going to focus on 100% recovery. I'm not really going to worry about, my performance right now at all because
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. I think the lacrosse, like I like to call myself a lax rat. I always have like the lacrosse like lover in me. Like I'm
I
passionate.
like that. I like that, the lax rat.
I
I've
know
never heard that.
it's such a lame phrase, but it's so me and my
That's
family.
kind of
But
funny. It's like the gym rat, whole gym
yeah,
rat thing.
like a lax rat. But yeah, I just love watching the game. If there's any college games on, I'll throw them on in the background. I like to just like listen to broadcasters, hear different conversations, watch the game, see what people are doing. I'm a big believer in like the more you actually consume it, the better you're going to be able to see the game, the better you're going to be able to play the game, the better you're going to understand the game. Um, and also the more you're going to like it, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of like right after the injury, we won gold. We obviously celebrated. And it was, I actually had to wait 6 weeks to get surgery. So I was sitting in the middle of summer, um, half rehabbing already. It's called prehab before, if you do rehab before you get surgery. So I was doing rehab every day with all of these ligaments torn in my knee, knowing that I was going to get my knee ripped open in about 6 weeks. So still strengthening, still training, and the pro league happened a week after Worlds was done. So I was planning on playing in that as well. So I was at home, training, trying to get ready for surgery and watching all of my teammates play in the pro league. I say watching because I really was watching. I like watching my friends have success. I like, watching the game. I also like have FOMO. So I wanted to, be able to see what was going on and see what people were talking about when Allie Kennedy has a hat trick. Like I want to see what those goals look like. So I watched a ton of it, and I just think it made me hungrier in the weight room, in my PT sessions when I got out of surgery. It made me more connected to what was going on, I think, and also just allowed me to like sit back and instead of training on the field and like focusing on my own reps, like being able to watch others for the last couple of months has been definitely something that's elevated my IQ.
Yeah, definitely. I think film is a great way to like kind of enhance creativity too, because the
Hmm.
more you're watching, the more ideas you can get as far as like moves and tricks and stuff like that. So yeah, I would always recommend anyone that's like asking for like how to get better at a sport, just watch film. Like
Yeah,
it's not super complicated. Pen and paper maybe,
yeah,
just keep watching. But yeah, I mean I'm sure that's really tough, having to sit out for that long of a period of time. How did you kind of stay mentally in the game as far as like your own training? Like what did you do as far as recovery and how did you accelerate the process of that injury after your surgery?
yeah. So after surgery, I got surgery at the end of August last year. So I'm actually like still not fully cleared. I see my surgeon in about a week and a half. So I'm fingers crossed gonna be back on the field in 2 weeks. Which is, kind of super fun because now I'm looking back on this entire process, like kind of at the end of it. But yeah, I think in terms of like just keeping myself into it, I have always been someone who I've moved my body every single day, no matter what that looks like, whether it's been yoga or running or conditioning or full-blown workouts or shooting or whatever it is, like I've gotten some sort of movement in. So I made sure that I didn't lose that. Now, like obviously, if you can't use your legs or if you can barely get off the couch and stuff like that for a couple of weeks, those movements look different. And I think what I've been holding true to is a little quote actually I'm grabbing my phone because it's one of my phone backgrounds. Um, it's the little things are what make the big things even bigger in the end. And that's been held true for me this entire process, right? Like when you first start out after a surgery like this, you can't even lift your leg up off the couch. So even just squeezing your quad muscle for 20 reps every hour, that's going to make me stronger the next week, right? So just remembering that even though that's a little thing in comparison to what I've done, it's going to make me better next week. I've chopped this recovery up into week by week by week, and it's definitely done a great deal on keeping me positive and motivated because there are little like successes and little wins to be able to calculate when it comes to a big injury like this and a big recovery. But if you're looking ahead too far and you're like always thinking about when am I going to get back on the field? When am I going to be able to run? When am I going to be able to do all the big stuff? You're going to overlook those little wins. So that was really big for me.
I think that's a really great point. Breaking it down, kind of just taking it one step at a time,
Hmm.
makes it a lot easier. And just celebrating those little wins, like you said, just being able to flex your quad more
Yeah.
than 20 times and not like cramping or getting sore. Um, so yeah, stuff like that. It is a slower process, but
Hmm.
patience is key, is what I would take from that.
Yeah.
I've never had like a surgery or anything with injury. I've had like I like rolled my ankle and I
Hmm.
was out for like a few weeks, but it was basically just a matter of taking it easy and like doing rehab before practice every day. But it was annoying, but sometimes it gets to the point where you just get used to it and it's like, okay, this isn't that bad. Like
Yeah, I think that's
only
another thing that it's definitely done for me is like recognizing as I'm yeah, like I hate to say getting older, but like in terms of an athlete, right? Like I'm not 18 anymore and like fresh in college. So it's just definitely given me that like realization of okay, before you hop into the weight room, you can't just hop into weights anymore or do 3 stretches and then you're ready. Like I got to do a whole warm up, activation, all sorts of different stuff. And in order to get the best out of my body, which isn't a bad thing. It doesn't mean that my body's slowing down. It just means that I'm more aware of, the things that I need to do in order to prevent little nagging stuff as I kind of go through.
And it is really those little
Hmm.
things that you do every day that help kind of prevent like bigger injuries from happening and like more frequent injuries, I guess you could say. Like little things like stretching and like you said, doing yoga.
Hmm.
Everything is just to kind of build off of strengthening your muscles and really just prepping for what's to come. Um, so, um, let's see. Kind of gone through what your recovery processes looked like, your injury. Is there any other like main points you have as far as like advice for getting through injury, whether it's like mentally or maybe like something that you really notice has helped you progress faster? If you want to just add anything else onto
Yeah, I
the topic
think
of
just
injuries.
remembering that like your body is like there's a bunch of different things that go into your physical recovery, right? It might be like a muscle or a joint or a bone that needs to recover. So yes, you got to follow the protocol, follow the doctors, follow the physical therapists, and follow everything with that. But you also want to make sure you're taking care of what's going on in like up here in your head. So for me, that's been a ton of journaling and just like I gave myself a goal the first 3 months of surgery after surgery when I knew I was going to be not doing as much physically, right? But which would be hard for me. I wanted to know how I was doing up in my headspace. So I wrote every single day just about, I gave myself a scale of 1 to 10, like how I was feeling that day mentally, like, oh, I'm really down today, or oh, I'm feeling really motivated today, whatever it might be. And that was good for me when I got to like that 4, 5, 6 month mark when I started to do more physically in the rehab. It was good for me to look back on and be like, wow, okay, like I've really come far. Even if it doesn't feel like it, I've really come far. So just making sure that you're taking care of like all the little pieces that go into it. Nutrition is another thing, right? What you're feeding into your body is what's going to fuel your body. And just remembering like all of those little things. Again, just the recovery aspect of it. If your doctors and your PTs and the people around you in your circle are telling you need to rest, you probably need to rest. Just things like that, just making sure that you're hitting all of those boxes rather than only focusing on, okay, how does my knee feel? I think, yeah, you got to focus on that, but all of it together is a big part of the journey.
Of course, there's a bigger picture for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I bet you got 2 weeks left until you're able to go out and play
Yeah.
like fully.
Yeah, so right now pretty much I can do yeah, I just am waiting for a clearance note. I can do everything but except for contact. So that'll be like my next step in the journey is,
Okay.
learning how to dodge and feel a cross check or, be able to like see a one-on-one and not be scared of the contact. Like that's going to be the next mental, physical piece in my journey, and getting back onto the field. And currently right now, I'm just trying to get myself in game shape,
Oh, of course, of
which is
course.
super fun.
Stuff to look forward to. Oh yeah, for sure. Game
Yep.
shape it's a different kind of shape, I'll tell you.
Yes, it's there's nothing like it. No way to emulate it, but we're gonna try our best.
Yeah, you can only try your best and hope for the best.
Mhm.
It's more mentally like strengthening too, mental strengthening too.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
just the
absolutely.
endurance part of it.
Absolutely. It's obviously way more fun when you're on a lacrosse field and you're not really thinking
Yeah.
too much
Yeah.
about the full 100-yard sprints or whatever you're doing, but when you're doing it just more on a field, just for
Hmm.
time and like what all that stuff, yeah, it's definitely a mental game when it comes to that. But I'm honestly just really grateful to be doing it. After this past year, like every time I get out on a field or every time I go for a run or anytime I have my stick in my hand, it just feels right. And I'm just grateful to be able to be doing it because I remember, back in August when I couldn't get up off the couch. So just grateful to be here.
Yeah, you're a lax rat. I mean, you're meant to be out there.
Lax rat.
It's your natural environment. Of course you feel at home.
It's true.
I actually love that. It's so funny. I haven't heard that yet.
That's so funny because I haven't said it in a while, but I've definitely said it before.
I'm gonna name this podcast Chatting with the
Lax rat.
Lax Rat.
Everyone's gonna be like, "Who's that?"
Mystery, the mystery
Yep,
Lax Rat.
mystery guest. It's me.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I submitted a poll on my Instagram or like a question box
Hmm.
and I got a ton of questions. Obviously, can't go through them all. We would be here for hours. But I took out some of the more popular ones and some that kind of apply to this. So we're gonna go through those real quick. Um, so the first one is, what do you do for mental preparation before a game? And how do you stay mentally focused in the game?
That's a great question. I do a lot of mentality work on a day to day. So like again, I haven't played a game in almost a year and it's still been something I've been working on because I know that if I'm mentally prepared for a regular day, I'll be mentally prepared for to step out on a game. But in terms of like getting ready for a game, I think um, there's always a lot of nerves. There's always a lot of excitement, adrenaline, anxiety that comes with it. We all experience it, and it all looks a little bit different for each of us. Some of us can harness it really well. Some of us like to kind of be a little bit quieter. Some of us like to be, super outgoing with it. For me, when it comes to like getting ready for a game, I like to make sure I'm focused on me rather than anything outside. So in terms of like, okay, if I know I'm playing against a really big time defender this game, or if I'm playing against a really good team and there's a lot of expectations from the media and from, my coaches and all my fans and everything that's all outside forces to me. And I gotta kind of remember that I'm playing for myself, right? And just like playing for the joy of it and the love of it, and just I'm supposed to be having fun while I compete out there. So focusing on what I need to do to be the best version of myself is what's helpful for me and blocking out that outside noise. And then in terms of in-game, I think the biggest thing that we always get stuck with is um, making sure we can harness our nervous energy before the game or in the middle of it, and also when we make a mistake. Those are the two most common questions that I get. Number one, for me personally, find what works for you, but for me personally, I'm one of the people who like to harness my nervous energy by putting my energy out into the locker room or into the huddle or to my teammates in terms of like cheering or rooting them on or like saying, "Oh yeah, nice shot," like in warm-ups, like that kind of stuff. If I'm focused on putting that out there, then I'm less inward and I'm less like thinking about, "Oh, I just missed that shot. Uh-oh," or "Oh my gosh, how's this game gonna go if I just drop that ball?" Like that kind of stuff I'm not focused on if I'm focused on hyping my teammates up. Number two, when it comes to like making a mistake, I think the biggest thing that you can remember, I like to think about the big picture. This just makes sense in my brain. Um, I just think about the amount of lacrosse I've played in my life and hopefully the amount that I will continue to play. And in comparison, what one mistake is compared to that, right? It's like comparing one person on the planet to me. That's what it is. So I kind of try to think about it like that and like, okay, what did that mistake really mean? Let's just go into the next play and figure out how we can, make up for it or just kind of focus on moving forward. The game's going to play out the way the game's going to play out. And let's just play hard and leave it all out here so we have no regrets at the end of it.
Nice. That's
Sorry, that was
awesome.
a lot.
No, that's good. I think I mean, you answered the question. So, like, mental preparation before
Hmm.
is getting focused in yourself and making sure you're taking care of yourself and your needs.
Hmm.
That way you can contribute to the team when it gets out to the field and you can support people. And it seems like your way of like it is like that good energy that
Yeah.
you're kind of expressing that makes you feel better and more calm inside and ready for the game.
Hmm.
But no, those are really great tips. These don't have to be like super short at all. Um, okay, next one is, what is your favorite pregame meal?
That's so funny. I always get this question, and I feel like it's kind of different every
Is it
time.
different? All right.
But
On any given day, if you could, well, if you could only stick to one, what would you
oh
choose?
no. Honestly, it like probably like it's just so funny. I don't know. It would probably be some sort of maybe like a like whole wheat bread with some peanut butter or almond butter and a banana. Like something filling but has
Classic.
the
Yeah.
yeah, has the energy. At AU 2 seasons ago, my go-to, I don't know why. You know when you get in like a fixation of something and then
Oh, for
you do it
sure. Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single day?
And
I
then you
don't know
don't
why
eat it
I
ever.
did it. It was a wrap. I did it on a whole wheat wrap, and then I would just like spread the peanut butter everywhere, honey on top of it, and then banana slices, and then you just roll it up. So it was like a little roll up, so I could take it on the go.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, it's like filling enough, not too heavy. You get the energy from the banana, a little bit of protein from all the other stuff, and I'm a big sweet tooth girl, so like if I add the honey and the peanut butter into it, that like kind of fixates my sweet tooth.
That's a good one, honestly. That's a classic,
Thanks.
classic for sure. Okay. What is, or okay.
Oh, I
Let's
also
see.
always have a nice coffee on my way to.
Always nice. What's your, you got Starbucks there? What's your go-to Starbucks?
Honestly, it's usually just a nice coffee with a little bit of oat milk when it comes to
Okay.
game day. Um, but Starbucks right now, I'm doing a venti shaken espresso with oat milk.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
I actually, this is so irrelevant. I'm probably gonna cut this out, but I like don't ever drink coffee, but I had Starbucks yesterday because I was like getting on a plane and I just wanted to like get stuff done in the morning. I almost passed out in the middle of the day. Like it was
Oh, it hit you so hard
I
that
think
like
the
when you
combination of the espresso and all the sugar that was in the drink, like I like thought I was gonna faint and I checked my like Apple heart rate monitor later in the day and then it like shot up during the middle of the
oh
day when I
no.
was like feeling that. So I think I need to take a break from Starbucks for a while.
That is fair.
I went from like 0 to 100 real quick and
That is fair.
can't be doing that anymore. Um, okay, next one. What was your most Memorable game to this
Mm.
day?
Oh, that's a good question.
You can take your time.
Yeah,
Need to think
one of
about it.
my favorite games um at Stony Brook was we won the it was the first time we got to the Elite Eight as a program. It was my junior year. Yep, my junior year of college, and we were actually playing. We were hosting Northwestern in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA playoffs on Mother's Day at like our home stadium in front of like the home fans that we had built up at Stony Brook that didn't exist a couple years before that. And there was just a lot of pride in it. So we made history there. It was just like a complete one of those games that was just like a complete team effort. Like everyone left it all out there. And then yeah, just kind of celebrating on our home turf and being able to go to the Elite Eight for the first time in program history. I think that was definitely like one of my favorite games for sure.
Awesome. All right, last question here. What's your favorite trick shot?
I think I'm gonna have to go behind the back just
I
because I have to.
think we all knew that was coming.
Just because I have to. I
Make
wish I could
sure.
do other things as well as that. But I'm working on it. We'll see if I every shovel shot I've ever shot gets saved, so I don't really have too much deception on that.
Stick
My
with
behind
what
the back
works.
is pretty regular for me now, so
It's probably the best out there, so
thanks.
might as well stick to it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course, of course. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kylie, for coming on to the podcast and sharing everything about your experiences and your injury. And I hope everyone listening could take away something from this podcast and be sure to follow whether you're on Spotify or Apple and leave a comment or send me a DM on your thoughts from today's podcast and send ideas for the future. Catch you guys in the next one. Thanks, Ellie.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.